he has taken an example, a quite interesting one, sport. He was a sportsman. He understood, first of all, that if you want to attack, you must attack not only on economic things, but on values. And when South Africa was excluded from the Olympic Games, it was a shame for South Africa. It was a shame for 30 years. And in '92, South Africa, when they stopped with apartheid, was back to the Olympic Games. Julie mentioned apartheid. You couldn't go to any conference without this question being raised. What about apartheid? We were speaking about female mutilation, and the answer was, but you have apartheid, you cannot raise this problem because you have apartheid. It was a priority. It's not the case for women's segregation. I think that we have here in London an opportunity with the Olympic Games. It is next year. English people have invented sport, modern sport. What is the characterization of modern sport is performance and uniformity of the rule. It's your invention. It's not a French invention. Although the modern Olympic Games has been invented by Le Baron de Coubertin, he has taken the idea from England. You have the Olympic Charter. The Olympic Charter is based on, not on cultural relativism, but on universal values. You have no discrimination is allowed in the Olympic Games. This is the reason why South Africa was excluded. You have delegation without women. Saudi Arabia, Qatar. They are not excluded. We have raised this question since 20 years. In those times, there were 35 delegations without women. Now we have 3. Okay, but why do we have 3? When it was black people, we had just 1. It was South Africa, and it was excluded. So this is the first question. The second one is that you are not allowed to wear political or religious symbols in the Olympic stadium or venues. You are not allowed. When the French people just want to wear this, you see this, it's a badge where it was just written for a better world. And French athletes want to wear this just to show that they were criticizing Beijing. But at the same moment, so they were forbidden to wear this because of Rule 51, forbidding any political propaganda. And this is, it's a quotation of the Olympic Charter. But at the same moment, you have from Bahrain this religious sign, and this was accepted, which means that now you have 14 delegations with veiled women. And these are good Muslims. These are from North Africa. They are good Muslims, but they respect the Olympic Charter. They don't wear the veil. So you are putting these women in danger, accepting this. This is what you have to understand, that not applying the rule, you are no longer protecting these girls. So we are in England, we are in Europe. Are we applying the Olympic Charter? And this is the reason why we have written this small brochure in French and in English. We ask, implement the Olympic Charter. Dare to implement. You don't have to invite a law. The law is here. Why don't you apply what you have yourself in England invented?
Thank you for that. And I think that's a great opportunity to actually confront religious movements trying to influence various space, and I think this is a great opportunity, and I think excellent proposal. Mariam, can I ask you to sort of continue the debate? I know you have sort of you've written variously about this issue, but the question is, at the same time, the question is also asked that people have the right to the religion. Can society which is secular accommodate people who are religious at the sort of at the level that they want to live? I mean, if you can answer that question as well in the course of your debate.
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. I do think that obviously people who are religious can live under a secular system, and I think in fact it's the safest system as a minimum for people who are religious or not to be able to live. I think oftentimes secularism is promoted as the opposite end of Islamism, and I think that's just a blatant lie, as a way of pushing back secularism and promoting religion's role in the public space. The reality of the matter is that people, even if they are religious, they don't necessarily all agree with Khamenei or Qaradawi or the Pope. They have their own personal beliefs. Very often, actually, it's in conflict with the ruling elite and what's deemed to be the power sources in religion. Very often they challenge it and they're opposed to it. And so in that sense, I think that actually having a secular society where religion is kept out of the public space, out of the state, out of the educational system, out of the legal system, out of employment, this helps people, including those who are religious. Oftentimes they'll say, oh, this is because you're an atheist. And, if I look at it as an atheist, I want a lot more against religion than secularism. I think secularism is just a minimum. It's a minimum requirement. I mean, I think especially, as Fibers mentioned earlier, we're not talking about a theoretical issue. We watch day in and day out the murder and mayhem that religion is causing worldwide, in our streets, in our neighborhoods, in our cities, and in countries across the globe. And I think actually, in a sense, as the late Marxist and humanist Mansour Hikmat said, it's not about private and personal religion, it's about a religion industry. It's an industry, it's worse than the mafia. Khomeini issues a fatwa against a British citizen and he's free. And he's still part of a state, They threaten and they slaughter and they kill left and right and center, and they're not even very often prosecuted for it, So in that sense, I think the fight against religion has to be a lot stronger and a lot deeper than merely secularism. Secularism is a minimum. It's a minimum that I, as an atheist, I, as someone who is a religion phobe and an Islamophobe, I, as someone who makes the choice of defending people and people's rights and freedoms versus the right of religion to bulldoze over people and their freedoms day in and day out. But I do want to say, and this is something I strongly believe in, that there is a distinction between Islam and Islamism, and I think if we don't stress this distinction, we end up possibly alienating a lot of Muslims, a majority of Muslims who are the first victims of Islamism and at the forefront of fighting this movement in Iran, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in places where they are shot in the street for saying and doing what many of us don't dare to do here in the West. And, I agree with Maria that this is all religions, but Islam is different only because, not because it's better than the Bible or the Torah, the Quran, for example. The misogyny in all of them is, incredible. I think if we don't stress the fact that Islamism, that uses Islam as its banner, has political power, I think we fail to see the problem at hand. It's like, you know, speaking about various religions. When you live in the Spanish Inquisition, you need to deal with the Spanish Inquisition first. And I think if we don't focus on Islamism as a political movement, we fail to address the point. It's not first and foremost an ideological battle, though I think all free citizens should fight against superstition and religion whenever they can. But it's first and foremost a political battle. We need to push Islamism back. And in order to do that, one of the main minimums that we have to adhere to is to defend secularism. We have to have it, and we can't compromise. I think the problem is that even secularists, and I include men and women in this, I think this is a battle of both men and women. There are men who are the greatest allies of women's rights, and women who are the greatest misogynists, including many in the Islamic parliament in Iran, parliament, majlis, whatever. And so, but you know, so I think this is a fight that we need to be aggressive about. You know, I know, you know, it's a dirty word now to call yourself an aggressive secularist, but I think that's the minimum that we can call ourselves if we believe in equality and in women's rights and in human rights. I want to just talk about a couple of points that really bugs me in the discussion on secularism, because there's too much to talk about and I don't want to go over my time because I get told off. But one is the issue of neutrality that we often hear about. Yes, a secular state is supposed to be neutral, and in France, I think a better explanation is incompetent on the issues of religion. But I find oftentimes that, you know, secularists use the concept of neutrality as a way of promoting religion's role in the public space, you know. Oh, we're neutral, so we've got 5,000 Church of England schools, so we need some Islamic schools as well. We've got to be neutral. That's not neutrality. That's not neutrality. And because the state is meant to be neutral, that means that the government needs to be quiet about, you know, children being beaten in Islamic schools and women being denied their right to divorce, to marriage, to child custody in Sharia courts, because the state is meant to be neutral. That's not what neutrality means. It means that the state doesn't get involved with religion. Religion isn't supposed to be part of the state, but the state has a duty to protect people from religion's encroachment, from its using courts and using schools in order to violate and abuse large segments of the population, both here and everywhere. The other issue that really bugs me is the question of it being voluntary. You know, if I get a penny for every person who tells me that it's okay to have Sharia courts as long as it's voluntary, I would be a millionaire and most probably would be in the Maldives right now, which I'm dying to go to but can never afford. But, you know, and I guess my question to them is, well, why don't we wait and see if a woman voluntarily wants to be beaten up before we say that it's wrong? Maybe she likes to be beaten up. And what about the child? Shouldn't we wait for the child to say that she doesn't want to be sexually abused before you intervene and say children shouldn't be sexually abused? And I guess my question is, stop hiding behind the issue of voluntary. Stop hiding behind it and allowing misogyny and child violence to take place day in and day out in our neighborhoods and in our cities against our citizens, in order so that you can stay silent about a scandal that is taking place, not only in this country, but across the world, a human rights scandal, and one that hiding behind the issue of voluntary just won't cut it.